goggles on.
Call the meeting to order for the May 8th, 2017 Wicomico County Council. This is the first budget session hearing. The first item on the agenda is economic development, Salisbury-Wicomico County Economic Development, to be exact. Good morning, Mr. Ryan. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Cannon.
Does everybody have it?
What number?
Everybody has it?
38.
38.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay.
Shall I provide a brief overview, if I may?
Yep, that would be great.
Yeah, for right now, we have three companies within the cable harness, cable assembly business that has a physical location in Wicomico County, that has a management structure, experienced management structure in Wicomico County, that has key procurement officers within the company, that has certifications necessary to bid on military contracts and other contracts in the cable harness industry, and the financial wherewithal to compete in that particular industry. And I think, hopefully, over the next several years, as Councilman Joe Holloway knows from our discussions at the board level, we expect to grow that cable harness business and retain the skill sets that we have in this community. And that's how we plan to do it. And we've been working hard since the Labanal facility has closed, and I think we're in a fairly decent position to grow that particular sector once again. And they tend to grow not by ones or twos, but by 20 or 40 jobs for a 5-year contract, things of that nature. So hopefully we anticipate over the next several years to see each one of those companies grow and employ hundreds of people, albeit not in one particular company, but a more diverse sector. We anticipate going forward growth in the manufacturing sector in terms of the defense industry, given the political and the economic nature of our country these days. Our defense manufacturers are experiencing a slight pickup at this point in time, and it's as perhaps indicative as a few weeks back when we came in with manufacturing support industries. And I think we'll see the 50 jobs there, but perhaps the upside there is significant. The life science sector within that important manufacturing sector, again, continues to grow. Companies like Zoetis and Trinity and Tishcon, and I just left Tishcon Corporation this morning at the CTE program at Parkside. Cadista Pharmaceuticals continues their growth. Lots of promising opportunities within the life science sector. In the past 4 or 5 years, our organization has undertaken everything we can think of toward efficiencies. And part of that was the investment in tablet and mobile technology and different apps. Part of that was new computer systems and processes within our office. Part of that was our foray into social media, which allows us to communicate better with our constituents, both internally and externally. Part of that was going through a paperless office. So on Mr. Hall's phone or Mr. Kilmer's phone or anyone else's phone here, we can pull up any document in our 50-year history. We can pull up any property to show a client, regardless of where we're at any point in time. All of that has enabled us to reach out further to our customers, those employers that are existing in our community, and those outside our particular community. As we move forward, we identify some very strong and very macro-oriented sectors, which I think offers significant opportunity. And ag and poultry, the importance cannot be overstated here. Healthcare, higher ed, advanced manufacturing, And we're doing quite a bit of work and lots of opportunities, I would suggest, in the aerospace and the airport-related industries locally. Those 5 areas, I think, offer very, very strong growth. We had the honor and privilege to present to the Wicomico County Farm Bureau a month or so ago, and we released our 3rd in a video series promoting our community. And I think the reception was fairly well, and so much so that they wanted more. And there's such great diversity in the ag sector that we've elected to do Ag 2 and show that diversity and show the sector the way we wish to portray our sector and not how others perhaps would like to portray that sector. Within our first video, we saw a soundbite or two that we could extract from that to help promote a different angle in agriculture. And I mention that because the opportunities within that particular sector are great today, and we're sensing those opportunities. Same thing with healthcare. As our country ages, that life science, no secret that life science sector is growing. And the more we can connect our medical system, our healthcare system with the existing employers that we have or prospects that we have, the better off we'll be. Higher education, we're large participants and heavily involved in the entrepreneurial competitions at Salisbury University. We're heavily involved at Warwick, and we're heavily involved at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. The more we can extract our entrepreneurial opportunities from those institutions of higher ed, the better off we're going to be. Lots of activity at the airport these days in terms of business development and perhaps job creation, and that's a sector in which not every community has an airport, but something that we can further reach out to the aerospace communities. We are asking for a $5,000 increase this year from Wicomico County. It's about 4% less than about 5 years ago. We're happy that it's 4% less than 5 years ago. But with that $5,000, we anticipate primarily allowing us to reach out to our customers, both internally and externally, more than what we are doing now. The videos will continue along with those video series, and we're getting a lot of traction on that. And when our partners, when we share it, it's 3,000 or 4,000 views. When our partner at Commerce shares, it's 20,000. When the Department of Agriculture shares, it's another 10,000. So we can reach in a fairly inexpensive way a larger audience. At the same time, it costs to produce those videos, and so focusing on that ag sector will be part of the reason we're asking for that increase. But primarily, it allows us to get out more. It allows us to reach out to our prospects more than what we are doing even now. And in my experience, while we have our pipeline of projects is fairly strong at this point, and my experience says if we can, ideally you want to bring those prospects here, but if you reach out and visit their place, people like to show you their facilities. They like to show you their place of business. They like to show you their plants. And if we do that more than competitors, then I think it broadens our appeal and enhances our reach to our prospects. So that's what we anticipate doing, along with not just me, but our partners at the Maryland Department of Commerce and the rest of the SWED team. We have a pretty solid team these days. So that's I think, a brief overview. I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have on anything. And
Any questions? Ernie?
That video, that the one you showed up in Sharptown?
That we showed the agriculture video in the Sharptown at the Farm Bureau banquet. We released it about a month prior to that. And then the video prior to that was education and training and how we can connect employers with the training resources and throughout the community. And the one before that was for businesses that are successful here in UCB too.
Judge, you have a question?
Yeah, I've got a couple of them. I'll go to the video. Who do you use for your video training? A private, or video, making your videos, private company?
Yes, sir. Vision Creative TV.
Did you ever reach out to PAC 14 to see if they could do those type of videos? I mean, they were county funded also, so I was wondering.
I've not. We can.
Yeah, that might be a way to save some money. And
Yeah.
then they could also broadcast them on PAC 14
Right.
at different times. As fill-ins or whatever, so.
Yeah, and I wonder if they could even broadcast the ones that we have
They could,
now.
they could. Oh, yeah.
That's a good idea.
Reaching out to, we'd be happy to do that. It's an eye-opening process.
Yeah.
You do an interview for about an hour, and you
Oh, yeah.
try to find that 10 seconds
Right,
and
right.
piece together a story. So part of it is that creative aspect, and I think our videographer so far has done a phenomenal job, and he's worked with our graphic designer as well as our website guy, so that's all coordinated
What does
together.
it cost to do a video?
It cost us $1,000 for the agriculture video.
Is that right? Yeah. Well, I would reach out to Tom and them because,
Yep,
I mean,
be
they've got all the
happy to.
equipment and, they could also broadcast it, so, anyway.
But
the other-
even if we didn't, they could broadcast our existing.
Right, right.
That's a great idea.
The other question I have, can you go across what kind of tax incentives that we give businesses to come here or businesses that's been here for benefit of myself and of course the audience is watching?
Right. Well, there's a myriad, I suspect. The primary ones would be the exemption from the manufacturing equipment exemption, personal property tax exemption associated with manufacturing equipment and machinery. That's 100% automatic exemption. Most all counties in Maryland offer 100% automatic exemption. I think it's indicative of the importance Wicomico places on manufacturing, and that we want manufacturers in this community. And so that's one tax incentive, if you'd like. The other is the enterprise zone, which is a statutory tax credit program offering within a specified geographic area the real property tax credits and personal property tax credits. Real property based on the improved value of real estate. So if you come in and you buy a piece of real estate and it's in the enterprise zone and you're certified as being in the enterprise zone, and if you're approved, but if you don't do anything to the building, then you're going to collect the same amount of taxes as you did before. It's just on the improved value. So the incentive is to encourage development, encourage in a specific area. And then the other side of that coin of the enterprise zone is a state income tax credit of $1,000 per new job, one time, over a 10-year period.
We've also arranged to do away with the inventory tax.
The inventory tax, I think this is the final year. I believe the next fiscal year it goes to a 100%
So do you
exemption, I believe.
Do you think these tools is basically in lowering taxes is really good for business to move into Wicomico?
Well, I think most businesses want to pay as little as they can for value received.
Right.
I don't think we have to be the lowest cost
Yeah.
on the East Coast, but we probably shouldn't be the
So
highest either.
They would be a driving force in getting businesses to come to Wicomico County.
I think so. And, the governor's come out with the Jobs for Marylanders Act, and that offers that, I think is indicative of the importance Maryland is starting to place on that manufacturing sector as well.
Would you have any idea what we could do for existing businesses that were already here? If they don't meet any of the criteria for some of these things?
Yeah, and there's nothing that...
Someone's not wanting to expand, but...
I understand. I understand. There's nothing that is available really for new that's not for existing. It's the growth that we're providing the incentives for, with the exception of maybe the equipment taxes is for everyone. As I talk to employers, and if anyone's in the hiring mode, the chances are you're probably having a challenging time finding that right fit, filling the existing positions that you have.
And then you talk to people looking for jobs, and they say, Dave, we're having trouble finding work. And how can that be? And it's this mismatch. So the more, excuse me, we can help our existing employers fill the jobs they have, then to me, that's an incentive, not just for the existing employers, but for those outside our community looking at the community and say, look, this community is working to provide me or our industry a trained workforce. And to me, that's a large incentive, and one that's a very, very challenging thing to do
So
in
you're saying-
an economy that's constantly changing.
So we need some, does that mean we need some incentives to get people to move to Wicomico County? It would-
Well, like I said earlier, moving to Wicomico is, you tax people where they live. So we have to we want to create that environment where people want to be, and businesses are entities. It's people. It's people who make decisions. And I think, creating that environment where people want to be is the same as saying, we're creating an environment where businesses want to be. And the more we can help our residents attain those resources or the skill sets demanded by business today, then I think we're doing a great service, not just for our existing base, but for prospective employers looking at the community as well.
Along the same line of questions, Joe, do you see any other incentives that are offered other places, either regionally or across the country that we haven't pursued yet?
Yeah, it's really, they can make great sound bites, but it's really hard to standardize. And my experience is kind of equivalent to when I was taking the kids, our oldest two, or all three, looking at colleges. You look at a college, and it has to be affordable. You want it to be safe. You want a good education, and there's a comfort level. And I think something very similar happens when employers look at a place for business. Is this something from the operational costs are reasonable? The value in return is equivalent to the cost, and is it a safe? Will my family get a good education, and is there affordability of a home that we can afford? A variety of homes, those types of issues are, I think, important in terms of business making a decision. We can get into the lower, again, I don't think we have to be the lowest cost, but we shouldn't probably be the highest. And the more value we can return, especially on the needs. And what I'm hearing is the skill sets. We need to fill the positions that we have today.
So is that a lack of training that's available here, or we just don't have just not enough that we need?
Well,
to
I think we can just enhance what we have. I think the demand for, I was just at the CTE program for auto technologists, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, those sectors which we're experiencing growth throughout the economy, then yeah, I think there's room to enhance those particular programs. And the challenge is they're one-offs, okay, just like employers. You don't need 100 doing the same thing today. That's the challenge, and that's why you're seeing this, employers having trouble filling a position and job seekers having trouble finding a position. It's that mismatch. It's not that we're doing anything wrong. The economy's changed, and after the recession, the economy's coming back without some of the jobs before the recession. And it's not that quantity. And technology, I think, is being applied to all of our industries like we've not seen before. Technology being applied to agriculture, and that's why there's a whole lot of opportunities in that sector these days. Technology in healthcare, technology in education, technology in advanced manufacturing, technology in law enforcement, technology in government. It's changing.
Dave, I don't know if you've been involved in any of the conversations that we've had, and we've had multiple conversations with the CTE, and Councilman Holloway was one of the first council members to bring it up. The CTE program is doing away with plumbing. And we had a tri-county meeting with the other boards of eds, and same thing's happening in Worcester and Somerset. So there's going to be a need for plumbers in the future.
Yeah.
And nobody is teaching them or training them around here.
Right. And you know, that's a point where perhaps collectively we could, and I'm happy to, I don't know if I want a quarterback, but we're happy to participate on any kind of a panel. But that's the issue. That's just what the issue is. And I don't know, they're smart people and terrific people there. I don't know the reason for that. But I think it's similar, something similar is happening in the private sector where you just don't have that mass. That being the case, there's still a demand.
There will be.
See, that's what I'm saying in the employer sector. We don't need 100, but we need 5. So how do we meet that need? And there may be different models that we have to look at. We may have to explore different ways to do it.
And you may see Dr. Hoy picking up that slack, I guess, at Warwick. And usually when there's a need, he'll fill that need. He's really good at that.
David, I'm sorry.
Well, I did have 3 more things, but I can come back.
Well,
No, go ahead.
this
I can
is-
come back.
This is in reference to
Yes.
that. You have a need and a skill set that you're looking for. Do you reach out actually to the largest employers in our county saying that we are willing to work with you? Do they acknowledge that you are a force that can give them help?
That-
And are you in constant contact with them?
We're clearly in contact with especially the larger ones, and you know, additional funding can help us reach out more.
Well,
But I just
In the
throw that
larger-
commercial in. But absolutely,
the
they're
larger ones are the hospital and education.
well, yeah, and they have a lot of their own training programs.
I know that.
But Cadista does not, and K&L does not. That's why Governor Hogan put in his budget the return of the Partnership for Workforce Quality Program. It's called PWQ. It's one of the greatest training programs in my experience, my opinion, on earth, because it can train 50 people or 5 people. And the employer does half, and the state of Maryland does half. And it's very simple, and it works. And it wasn't funded for a period of time, and it's come back in this budget for the state of Maryland. The Maryland Business Works is a very similar program. It's kind of a fix to that PWQ, but the PWQ has come back. We're out promoting that. We've always promoted training, and certainly the first source has been Warwick. There's no question over many years. But I think the PWQ program will help, especially in those smaller quantities where you just don't have that mass. And I was at the Archon Welding Services School, the graduation. Mr. Cannon was there a couple of weeks ago, and there was 10 people. 10 people.
Automatically employed.
Automatically. And that's what we're seeing. So how do we change the models a little bit? We may need to. And look no further than here. We had to change models. We have to change the way we promote our community. That's why we're reaching out to the videos. That's why we're reaching out to partners. That's why we're going into social. We had to change. We have to target more, and that's what we're doing. Same thing. There may be different models that we have to explore new ways of looking at this.
I think Joe was going to interject something. It looked like you were getting ready to say something. We were
Turn
talking
that
about
mic down. You gotta turn this mic.
I did, but I want to wait till this was over.
I wasn't, but I have had a thought. Getting back to the CTE program and the plumbing, I expressed my displeasure with the board about them quitting that. Of course, they were saying that they didn't have enough students, to maintain the program. Is there any chances that SWED could work with any of the local plumbing companies, and whether we did a grant or something to them to do some kind of on-job training for someone working out of high school, say, getting out of school half a day to work with these folks to
We'd
And
be,
and the Board of Ed's coming in, and I don't know whether we want to get into that big discussion with them.
yeah, I don't want
today, 'cause we're here
to,
for
I don't want to
budget.
steal their thunder.
We're here for budget, but I was just wondering if there was something that SWED could do to help
We'd
that.
be happy to explore any of those partnerships, anything that can put people to work. We'd be happy to explore this partnership. Shouldn't volunteer our president, even though he's in the plumbing industry, but
Yeah.
probably will volunteer him and reach out, to our partners at CTE and see, what, and the private sector mostly, to see what kind of partnership we can form and how can we meet those needs? And we'll start with a blank slate. And
If you don't think that's a good job, hire one.
call one to your house.
Find out
Yeah,
what it costs.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I just want to make a point. We were talking about people relocating here, and we were talking about schools. And with my 5 years on the board and hearing people talk, community schools is what people want. And then with the majority of the high schools right in the city limits, they're not out in the communities throughout the county. And people don't want to live in the city. Not everybody that comes here. Some of them want to live in the urban parts, the outskirts of the cities. It'd be nice if we had our high school spread out even more.
I attended a.
That was a
Just a mark.
statement, right?
So part of the incentives you have is this, it's like a match, I guess. It's about a 10% match when the state, for the state program.
That's actually, Mr. Councilman Kilmer, a statutory requirement.
Yeah, not-
So if the state participates, there's a required 10% match.
So what's that, I know there was a name for that fund that you.
We call it a SWED, Business Expansion Fund.
And is that, how much money do you have in that? Is that adequately funded?
We could use more, and we,
Well, I know you could always use more.
yeah, we could, and we've been,
Are you running out, is that being depleted?
we have, if it was totally capitalized, I think we'd be about 660,000. We have available to lend probably 300,000. We have a fairly strong pipeline of projects coming in. We have reached out very recently to the state and working on how to enhance that particular fund, given the pipeline that we have.
Now, there's 18,380 in the budget. Is that for that fund, or is that for a different fund? Wayne?
I need to
He's talking
yield.
about Fund 67.
Yeah, so that's not part, it's not.
I
in
need
the
to
SWED-
yield.
It's not in the SWED part, so.
No, Mark, that's a special grant. I'll get the details for you. It's a grant that has been applied for or will be applied for. We don't know whether it will be awarded, but if so, there is a county match. But I'll get the details for you so that
so-
perhaps this afternoon at the Public Works,
All right.
work session, I'll have it for you by then.
Okay, but that's not. for
Has
SWED.
nothing to do with SWED, no.
Could it?
What's it for?
I'll have the details later. It escapes me right now at the moment, John.
What number was it?
I'll have it for you later.
It's still under
It's
economic
18,000.
development. There's not a department tab for it.
I got it, okay.
Just as
It's one of the funds that we have.
It's a match fund for a grant application we made. And let me just say this while I'm here on Dave's behalf, on SWED's behalf. We, as you know, we go to New York each year, get ourselves in front of the credit rating agencies, and several years ago, we started to incorporate SWED. Dave does a tremendous amount of research for us, puts together an economic profile that we present to the credit rating agencies. They are, as you may imagine, very, very interested in the state of the economy locally, and Dave and SWED just do a tremendous job, and I think that it has bolstered the county's positive profile on Wall Street and has had a real positive impact on our credit rating and conversely our interest rate. So invaluable. And also Dave has been invaluable with the airport in terms of how we can develop that asset to be a more meaningful asset inside the county. So we consider it money very, very well invested.
I was at a forum last week for Salisbury University, was actually putting this on, and it was at the chamber. The whole idea of that was how Salisbury University can help with economic development. And it was well attended. One of the issues that came up there was the fact that with this, genesis of enterprise, entrepreneurship coming out, there are a lot of different agencies that were all taking part in entrepreneurship, but it was very scattered. So I think the question that came out of that was, is there any way to consolidate it? Tri-County Council has their thing going on. You have downtown, they have their center there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they, off the top of my head, I think they mentioned about 4 or 5 different entrepreneurship incentives, but it was scattered. And I don't know if there's any way to maybe consolidate it.
Well, yeah, I think the good news is there's a strong ecosystem here with entrepreneurship. And the challenge would be to capsulize that in a smaller or quicker soundbite so it has more meaning. And I think that's what the university is really trying to do with their particular program.
Could that
So-
possibly be SWED's role to sort of try to get all that together into one basket?
It could be. We're relatively, we can certainly partner in something like that, and we're doing it now. I mean, we promote the hot desk, we promote the new entrepreneurial center downtown. We awarded a SWED award to Neuro Helmet Systems at Salisbury University, and we've met with the students, and they've met with employers, and making that connection on a company of our choice that we think is far enough along the idea stage or the invention to actually implement something, and we're cognizant of our mission where we need jobs today, and we're laser focused on first our resident employment base, and then second on new prospective employers coming to the community. That being said, we're a small organization. Our wingspan is pretty broad thanks to the many partners that we do have, and we're happy to explore that. I don't know that we want to quarterback that, but we certainly want to partner with the university, and there's a lot of business plans, lots of dollars that are flowing in entrepreneurial endeavors coming out of that university. And so if we can help coordinate a better message, and we are exploring that with Tri-County Council right now, Worcester County and Somerset County. And the government says we're in a 4-county metropolitan statistical area, should we not include Sussex County as well. That's 400,000 people. You've got 200,000 jobs. And so we're exploring, is there a regional message? Should there be a regional message? How can we cooperate to get more people looking at this region?
John?
Dave, you talk about these funds that are available to entrepreneurs. How do you advise them that they're available, number one? And how do they find you, number two?
Entrepreneurial funds being,
For loans or along that line, the $600,000, for instance.
well, that, it's on our website. It's on social media, not all the time, but periodically. We reach out to our partners at the state of Maryland level, mostly through our existing employers, in which we have a program where we just call on existing employers to talk about the help we may be able to provide. We reach out to Warwick, we reach out to the university staff so that they can spread that word to students. We reached out to the CTE, Brian Ashby this morning again, and we're taking more and more employers in through there. It's indicative of the interest that employers have in those vocational skills today. So we can always do more, and we're happy to try alternative mediums in which to spread the word that we want to help.
And I think it's out there for the most part. I really do. I mean, I've been around a long time. We have lots of relationships out there, and it's not to say we've hit everybody. We haven't. But the more we can spread that, the more you can spread that, is helpful. On May 24th, you can help us by attending our general membership meeting at the Greater Salisbury. At 12 o'clock, you can walk in that second floor conference room and pick up a bag lunch. It'll be a good sandwich. And at 1 o'clock, you'll walk out and after hearing a fascinating presentation from Jason Woolley, who's the senior VP at Cadista Pharmaceuticals, and talks about the rise and the 400 jobs in which they have available there now, and what their future looks like as well. Those type of events, and then sharing that through our social channels or website and partners, and you sharing it helps get that message out that we do have an economic development office. We are active, and we want to help.
I have one more question.
Yeah, we got to wrap.
Yeah, Mr. President, I think we've gone over. I've got one quick question.
John.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
I'm sorry.
I said you're waiting.
You mentioned social media when you were looking for a college, you mentioned that you were looking for colleges or looking at schools. And when you do that, typically you look at, or the student looks at social media. Also, when they look at schools to see what the social media says about where they stay, or where they're going, or where they're thinking about going. Do we do anything like that on a permanent basis for this area, and should we be doing it?
I'm not following. I'm sorry.
Well, if you're taking a child.
I'm not trying to duck anything. I'm just not following the question.
I understand. Okay. If you
I wasn't alluding to that when I was looking at schools for my kids, that we were looking through social media, although we did. But that
exactly.
wasn't the driving force for
And
us.
I
It was a
understand.
radius and this kind of stuff.
But should we do something like that, be doing something like that for our community? We're trying to encourage younger people to come into this area.
Yeah.
They're much more involved in social media. Wouldn't this be a way, and it's a permanent thing that the universities have as far as social media goes, because they realize that the younger people are going to look at this.
Well, so you'd be surprised. Some do a better job than others with that.
I know some do, and generally those are the ones that are where the student wants to go, not necessarily where parents want to go, but should we be doing that on a permanent basis is the question.
And we're looking at, I'm still trying to figure out and I'm sorry, but we're looking at social media for new prospects.
Social media for bringing new industry and younger people into this community.
I think so, and back to my video comment, one of those things we extracted was just that, of a young person talking about the opportunities in agriculture. My son graduated from college with a math degree, and he ended up in the poultry industry.
But we're talking about on a
and-
permanent basis, not on
but-
a, not
and we
on
do it on a permanent-
shotgun basis.
We do it on a permanent basis, and those social media channels allow us to communicate sometimes, perhaps more effectively, even through private messaging with our constituents or prospects, even better than corporate email systems sometimes.
We got time for one more question.
Yeah, mine, I'm not gonna drag it out. It's just a yes or no question. Do you have other revenue sources?
Yes, sir.
It's not listed, okay. And what about the city? Are they still a partner?
I thought it was a yes or no. We have one question, yes or no. Here we go. Yes, absolutely.
That's a-
Absolutely. And the private sector,
Okay.
and sponsors.
So what is your total budget
247.
with the city and,
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the private sector as well.
thank you.
Dave, thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very
Thank
much.
you, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
He's on it. He's on it.
I showed him your Twitter page.
Right.
Yeah, please. I mean, okay, like us on Facebook, right? Follow us on Twitter, connect with us on LinkedIn, and watch us on YouTube.
That's perfect. That was the answer I was looking for.
Wayne, you get
Thank you.
Fund 67 for us?
Yeah, I'll find that for you, John.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
Next.
I knew the answer.
Had these looked up.
It's very hard to find them on here, I agree with you.
I can't find it on one.
It's very hard to find them. Oh, and I got it here. 30 in the book.
30 in the book. I was trying to find it on the PDF.
Yeah, the PDF is I found the PDF very difficult in trying to find, well, you can do it on a word search.
Is it Board of Ed now?
And they're,
But without a word search, it was hard to coordinate where these
they're not
departments were.
numbered properly. This is page 71 and page 190, so they probably should have numbers down at the bottom. 37, what did
That
you
page
say?
number is the page number that they use when they printed out the reports on units.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any way at some point to get numbers down the bottom?
We would have to get a bait stamp and number it that way.
Good morning.
Morning.
What number did you say? Do you know any ones? Or we just use them?
30 in the book, 30 in the book. Are you? Don, what are you doing here? Any baseball season?
Which ones?
High school, we're waiting for the draw.
Well, the rankings have already been,
They don't draw till tomorrow.
yeah, for the season. I think Parkside's ranked the highest.
We're ready. If you guys want to get moving, we're ready. Whatever you want to bring up.
Morning. How are you? Bruce, how you doing? Good to see you.
I would tell you, I'd have to say in going through this, really can't be understated. Thank you guys enough for everything that you're doing. And I mean that sincerely. When you go through this budget, you see exactly what it entails, both, with the superintendent and with the Board of Education, and we all know what Bruce's position is. We know who's running that train. But a lot of work. So anyway, we appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and talk with you about our budget. As you know from looking at it, we have presented a maintenance of effort budget. We did also include, as I hope you've seen, a couple of lists, if you will, of one-time funding, non-recurring requests that will not impact maintenance of effort, in hopes that we could receive your support of increasing our budget by those amounts. But we are happy to answer any questions that you have about the budget. Maybe I'll turn it over to Bruce first, if you want to go through some things. Bruce?
Hey, good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to spend some time with you and kind of walk you through the budget document with some items that we want to make sure the council is aware of and may have a question about. So this is about your time, so I'm going to be real brief and then give you a chance to ask any questions that you may have. The amended budget was passed by the Board of Education at a meeting on May the 2nd. That document you have in front of you. I'd like to refer you to page 8 there. It's the back of the letter, the superintendent's letter, and I'm just going to walk you through a couple points there. As you know, the superintendent, right at the top of the page, has identified 4 vision points that will drive all future budget decisions and have been instrumental in formulating this financial plan known as the FY18 Consolidated Current Expense Budget. Those 4 vision points, which are
basically inspiring a school system, our school system, to be rooted in a culture of respect, transparency, and collegiality. A public school system committed to safe schools and are developing a positive atmosphere for our students. A public school system dedicated to meeting the needs of each student, from the most gifted to the most challenged. And finally, a public school system where our community believes in us. And so those 4 vision points are going to be the impetus for all decision-making relative to budgeting from this point forward. That financial framework that makes up this consolidated current expense budget consists of 2 components: the general fund unrestricted budget and the special revenue restricted budget. The total for FY18 will be $206 million, a little over $206 million. That's a 3.9% increase over the prior year. Within the general fund, which is the largest component of the total consolidated current expense budget, within that general fund budget, the board has approved the superintendent's recommendation that we submit a MOE-only budget. As you know, maintenance of effort is the law in the state of Maryland whereby a county must fund their school system by an amount that is basically driven by the prior year's cost per pupil. And this year, if you look at the bottom of the page there, the county appropriation MOE only is $43,017,201. That's an increase of just a little over $1 million, or 2.58%. With the funds that we are receiving from the MOE amount, as well as the 3.28%, a little over $4.5 million in the state, the board has approved the superintendent's recommendation to fund the items grouped there near the bottom of the page there in priority order. Pay raises and benefits for our employees, $2.88 million. 11 teacher positions for read intervention enrollment growth, $628,000.
Right, and on that item, we pared that down quite a bit from requests. But the most important thing that I can tell you about at this point, with those 11 positions, that has to do with, as Bruce said, enrollment increases, but also our ability to support reading intervention in our schools. The 4 teachers that we've added for reading intervention really doesn't touch the need. You probably know from other conversations with me that as we move forward into the future, I'm really going to be looking at increasing pre-kindergarten and really starting our efforts much earlier with our neediest students, so that we will get to the point, hopefully, where we're not looking at as great a need with reading intervention, but we do have that need. So that's 4 of those 11 positions. The other positions have to do with, one of the positions is to support an elementary alternative program for some of our neediest at-risk behavior-issued students in the elementary school, and then the other positions have to do with enrollment growth.
There are also 6 instructional support positions, 3 assistants, 1 social worker, and 2 interpreters, $235,000. Also a request to support our bus contractors, an overall average 1.25% increase for our bus contractors, and 12 replacement buses that have aged out, $407,000. Cost to enhance a telecommunications system across our entire school operations, $345,000, and then finally, costs related to our choices, relocation, and parkside renovation.
So I'll comment briefly on especially the choices part of that. Since I have returned to the county, I had great angst about relocating the modular village, if you will, from the location where it currently is on West Salisbury property to the Y-High property. And I've spoken with the board, and we've worked together, and we are actually actively seeking another location for that facility. And so those are funds that are set aside, one-time funds, where we can accomplish that without coming to the council for additional funding for capital.
So you heard some resistance on that relocating?
Even before I heard the resistance, I
Have you
was
got a
concerned.
location in mind?
We're actively working on that.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Do you do that yourself, or do you get a realtor to do it for you? We found out that as soon as the county went out and started looking for someone, they knew it was the county, it was like we were automatically getting charged top dollar. I didn't know if you had a separate realtor that did that for you.
We are working through a realtor, but we're doing it, what is the language? We're doing it confidentially. What?
Straw buyer.
Thank you, thank you.
That's why that's why we put him on.
That's the only thing I know.
Do any of these increases go to your sports coaches?
As part of negotiations, Mr. Dodd, you'll remember there was the extra duty pay scale. And the extra duty pay scale, which has coaches and all the other type of extra duty positions like drama club and band leaders, all those are driven by that negotiated agreement.
Yeah, and I know Mr. Fitzgerald will agree that they do a lot of work for basically nothing.
Oh, you get paid for that?
Not much. Especially when you're getting home around 11 o'clock midnight some nights.
Yep, it's all part of the negotiated contract. Also, as Dr. Hanlon alluded to at the top of the next page, we have included as a request some one-time, non-recurring items that do not affect MOE. They are technology for the classroom, $819,500, and some capital requests for safety and security in our schools. And if you will turn to page 72 in your budget book, we'll take a quick second and go over those items. And for those of you who were able to attend the Fruitland Intermediate presentation, you actually saw some of that technology in action. And it is pretty, it's a pretty powerful tool in the hands of a teacher in delivering instruction to our students. So on page 72 there, you'll see a list in priority order of requests for one-time, non-recurring items that do not impact MOE that are all strictly technology. We've listed the type of technology and the school from which, to which the technology would be located. The top line there, the interactive whiteboards for Salisbury Middle, that is our last school for the interactive whiteboard implementation project. So obviously that's why we've got that as our top tier request. And then additional requests for those who were able to attend the county executive's public hearing. You heard the various students and teachers speak about the importance of the laptop carts and how important they are for the delivery of instruction. So again, in priority order, one-time requests that we are asking the county council to consider funding a total of $819,500. And then on the very next page, some capital items totaling $1,996,000, again, in priority order, listed by school. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't point out the unfunded request, starting on page 136 and going through page 142. These are a list of all the requests that came in from our various schools and departments that did not make the cut. As you can see, it was over $7.7 million worth of requests that, while important, there's not enough money to go around. And so we wanted the council, as we have each year, let the council know what those requests were. And then I said that was final, but I do want to make sure that the council's aware of our enrollment projections on page 182, because typically I get asked this question, well, what are you anticipating enrollment? We experienced additional enrollment growth again this year of about 80 students, and on page 182, you can see the enrollment growth for September of 17 as again about 80 students, and then it kind of levels off.
You must have been reading my mind.
Typically, that's what the council asks. So, with that said, I'm going to be quiet and let the council ask any questions that they may have.
Sure. Yeah, I was looking at this the other night, I was thinking maybe we should just skip to page 72 right away. Seems like most of it. Council questions? I was really surprised that about, I'd say 30% of your budget goes to, I guess, special needs, reading intervention, English language learners. Your total budget, including what the state gives you, it's all over 30%.
We have a very at-risk population.
Yeah.
One of the highest in the state.
It might,
If not,
that in
second highest, I believe.
That in itself may more than justify your pre-K incentive.
Absolutely.
And that starts at birth.
You're right.
We don't want, I've had that discussion here at the table before about going that far back.
Yes.
But again, I've said this before, we're all used to kindergarten as the starting point. And I really think, it may be 3 years old instead of 5 years old. And I know you put together some programs on that. One question I had just is that on this 587-801, you have it listed on page 21 as for pensions. It's part of a disparity grant. You have a Wicomico County funding pension costs, but everything that we have says it should be capital costs. It's just a minor, maybe I just didn't know which was the correct one.
If you go to the very first page, there is a different bill. Pension bill is 1109. That's 319,849. And then the disparity grant is under House Bill 150, which is the 587,801. So they're two distinct, separate sources of funds.
Right. But now the 587-801 on chart 3, and you have it also listed in the text, you're referencing as Wicomico County funding. I
It's
see.
a separate line.
Okay, I think I see what you're, well, wait a minute.
What page are you looking at?
Page 21 on chart 3,
Yeah,
where it says 587-801.
yeah. In years past, 14, 15, and 16, it was pension.
It was a combination, okay.
It was all pension, but in 18, that 587 is just disparity. That's all that is.
And that is for capital, though, correct?
Well, Mr. Culver was asking that of us a few minutes ago. Everything we've seen in the language that has been passed and recorded doesn't refer anything to capital. However, we are choosing to use it all for capital toward the Choices program. Yep, 100% of it.
Okay.
100%.
Because that is one-time funding.
One time.
That is not,
Yeah,
does
that
not
disparity.
contribute to maintenance of effort.
Yeah, that's another important thing, thank you. That 587 cannot be used to impact the MOE basis for 19.
Okay.
I guess I forgot, why do you want to move the location of Choices?
Well, remember at West Salisbury, those whole portable units have to be removed in order to be able to complete the project.
So it has to go as far as that corner.
No, it has to be off that
Off the
site.
property.
That's what I mean, that
Yeah.
It's got to be off that site completely.
the acreage for West Salisbury includes that.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And Dr. Hanlon came and talked to the board and said she did not want it at Watt High campus.
Now, in terms of maintenance of effort, I see the county got hit by kind of that rolling, was it the statewide 5-year average? So was that, I'm just trying to go through the figures here, was that basically, if we would have just kept maintenance of effort, you know, the increase in students, things like that, would have been about $1 million less, but that rolling statewide average bumped us up another $1 million or so? Is that, am I, you're?
Yes,
And
that-
I know you do all you can to explain it simply, but, you know, it's still,
Yeah, on page
it's still-
61,
Yeah.
where Mr. Kilmer's referring to the calculation for maintenance of effort. Yeah, it's it's what's referred to as the education effort formula. And what the state law basically takes into consideration is what is and on page 60, I have a narrative there, the additional MOE requirement, and the kind of 3/4 of the way down that page on page 60. Any local school system with an education effort below the statewide 5-year moving average must increase their per pupil MOE amounts by the lesser of, and this is where it gets complicated, the lesser of the increase in the county's local wealth per pupil, the statewide average increase in local wealth per pupil, or a cap of 2.5%. And the lesser of those three was 2%, which was the county wealth increase. So in this case, Mr. Kilmer points out correctly, there was a bump equal to 2% in the cost per pupil for FY18's MOE calculation.
It's always, yeah, I commend you for dealing with this and figuring all this stuff out. The state's made it very complicated to figure this stuff out.
It is
So,
very,
thank you for explaining.
very complex.
It's mind-boggling.
John?
I have a question about security. Security is provided by the sheriff's department, correct? And the funding.
Security, well, they're the, school resource
School
officers.
resources.
Right,
School resources
resource
are
officers.
supplied by the,
per contract, and we have to
Per
fund
co-
that 100%.
and is the contract with the sheriff's department?
Yes.
And do I see that listed in here at any point?
Yes, let me give you the page that the amount is on. It's under our student personnel section within the budget. And that is on page 114.
Well, security is so important to the education system right now, which is another component, a major component, unfortunately. The relationship that you have with the school resource is very good, I assume, and all you need is some of the electronic and technological
enhance, that's
resource
correct.
portions of it.
That's
and-
correct.
You remember a few years ago, you did a one-time funding for security.
Yep.
And, you know, again, we're coming back
114.
asking for some more. Because I agree with you, that is the big key right now. And I know all of us are getting calls about this, that, and the other, so, but,
Especially last year.
well, yeah, but it's, you know, it goes on, so, but, you know, more cameras, you know, whatever we can do. And, you know, I don't know if Mr. Willie's behind me or not, but I'm gonna say it, if he doesn't. We don't ask, we don't get, in this one-time funding, if possible, we would like for you to consider. And I know that, you know, you gotta make choices, but at least it would not go against maintenance of effort.
Do you have a large overtime bill for resource, or for the
No, no.
Again, it's all contracted,
we-
so there's
it's-
no problem with it?
That's correct. Now, as you may or may not know, we do pay separately to man all of our activities with sheriff's deputies. And we pay whatever rate, including overtime, for the use of the sheriff's officers to maintain security for athletic events, for assemblies that are at night or whatever the case may be, plays, a rock and roll revival, for example, security. We pay, or the organization that's renting our facility must pay whatever going rate is, including perhaps overtime, to the sheriff's deputies for those services.
Bruce, I'd be interested in those figures. Could you get those to me?
Absolutely.
please?
Yeah, and that's all separate from the contract, which is
Understand.
close to about $600,000 for the annual contract for the SROs in the schools.
So you had a $50,000 increase in that. Was that adding another officer or?
No,
Just,
we missed the estimate last year,
Uh-huh.
so, and plus the pay raise. We
For the
just-
officers.
Yes, that's correct.
Moving into it.
Yep, so no, it's not an additional, that's right.
So the school resource officers are at the high schools and the middle schools?
And are also on call with elementary schools.
And one supervisor. There's
Yeah.
9. One supervisor, there's 9 of them.
Okay. No schools have two,
Correct.
because I've seen in some of the schools there might be one or two vehicles there. Maybe they had an incident or something, but then they're at all the athletic games and even the assemblies at night.
And that costs extra, that's the number I'm gonna get
That's
to
right.
Mr. Hall. All that we have to pay for
Board
extra.
meetings, you have one.
Yep, we have to pay for that, separate.
I've got, this isn't as much a budgetary item as it is just a concern. I was, met with a teacher this weekend that's just resigned from our school system to go to Worcester County to a private school. Not for more money, but she said she just could not get the support in the school with discipline, as the administration. She said she give up, is basically what she did. And first, when somebody says they quit and went somewhere else, you assume they went for more money. But she said she just couldn't teach anymore. She couldn't do it. What can be done to give these teachers more support in the classrooms when they send people to the office and the office sends them back? They're disrupting the classes. And I know this isn't, I guess it isn't a budgetary item, but it could be considered because you've got, you have to keep paying teachers more to keep them here. So where are we moving to on that front?
Well, certainly, I'm going to go back and find out the individual situation that you're talking about. I do meet monthly with our Teachers Association president, so we have ongoing dialogue about teachers' concerns in that area and brainstorm together what we can do to ensure that we're supporting teachers in the classroom. But there are individual situations with teachers that, again, I thought I knew who you were talking about until I didn't know who you were talking about in this situation with the teacher who'd resigned. So I'll be very interested in seeing what her individual circumstance was. I can tell you that from hearing at meetings with the board by parents and teachers that the culture in the schools is improved, but I would be naive to think that everything is well, and so we do have ongoing initiatives that look at that. One of the things that we did this year that I believe I spoke with the council about was a system-wide survey to get feedback from teachers and students and parents about school culture, and then looking at school-specific initiatives that need to be implemented to improve school culture, again, specific to the school. We will continue to work with administrators about making sure that students who are referred to the office are seen. and are following, and that the code of conduct is being followed so that teachers do feel supported in their classrooms. That's critically important. And where that's not happening, then those are the conversations that I'm having with either individual teachers or administrators or with the Teachers Association.
I could have dismissed this if it had been a young teacher, you know, somebody that was, say, just out of college and started teaching, but this teacher's been teaching for a long time,
Okay.
so it's
Joe,
really concerning.
I'm gonna disagree with you. We want to hear them all. It don't make no difference how long they've
Well, I
been teaching.
understand, but
You know,
what I'm
but-
saying, you know, is it was concerning because this was a teacher that
Right.
had been teaching for a long time, so.
And the board has took a stance. You know, we want that kind of mess stopped. We want to keep every teacher. Now, is it gonna happen? I would like to be naive to think we could do it.
Yeah.
But there's always gonna be one or two. You know, I have a daughter that teaches. And, she teaches at Bennett. She moved from Bennett Middle to Bennett. Big jump for her, 19 years. But it's been a good move. I hear horror stories, but I hear a lot more good stories.
I'm sure there are.
You know, so, you know, but we want to hear them all.
And I'll piggyback on what Councilman Holloway said. It's not an isolated incident. I go to a lot of events, a lot of sporting events, and parents that are there that are employees of the school, they bombard me with the same kind of concerns. And one time I had 6 school employees around me, and the game was over, and I was still talking, and I was listening, and I meant to say something another time, when the last time we met, but our meeting went on so long, I figured I'd catch you another time, but since Councilman Holloway brought it up, I hear it a lot, and I know you do as well.
I hope that you will say to those individuals that they need to come in and speak with me,
Some are afraid to.
are afraid to speak with me.
See that mean looking?
No, it's not that.
Well, I know what it is.
They're just afraid of repercussions. But thank you for listening.
Just some small things I had on 63. You had non-resident tuition, CTE, AM or PM. What is that chart all about? Regular ed students, special ed students, self-contained, in-state, out-of-state. What's that all? What is that?
Are you talking about the bottom of page 63?
Right in the middle.
We have, typically, it is Somerset County residents who want their children to attend Wycomico County schools.
Okay.
And so we charge a in-state, non-resident tuition fee for them to be able to attend their schools.
Okay. Does the state supplement that?
Well, we get state aid for that child because they are a resident of the state of Maryland. But because they are not a resident of Wicomico County, we charge them the in-state non-resident. For example, if there's a regular ed student, $3,200 to attend Wicomico County Public Schools.
I got you. Thanks.
Does the family pay that, or does
The family pays it.
the other school district doesn't?
No.
Okay.
No.
On 67, I just was curious, under Administration, Director of Communications, Community Outreach, is that a position that was requested and denied?
No, that was a position that I believed was extremely important.
Right.
And it's in the budget, but I found a way to fund it within our current,
Through current cost
Current-
reductions.
Okay.
That's why you
taking
see
money from somewhere
no net
in
request.
order to make that happen.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if it was, if
No, it's
the net
funded.
request was eliminated because of,
It's funded through cost
it
reductions.
was simply done
Yep.
in-house to a
Yep.
certain degree.
Yep.
And the only other one I had was, and this is, I'm not gonna micromanage anything you do, Bruce, I'll tell you right now.
No, please, and
But-
I'm always open to suggestions.
micromanage anything I
I'm
do?
always open to suggestions.
On page 90. On page 90, under contracted services, the only thing that stuck out was it's sort of doubled, going from 145 to 333 to 348. I wondered what was happening with consultant and other contract services that was causing that. And believe me, it's a huge budget, and this is just one question.
Oh, yeah. That is most likely related to our ongoing software costs. as you know, software is being used to run almost everything anymore.
Right.
And so we have some large contract for software for various programs, such as our student program, such as their business and HR program. So I'm pretty sure that's all related to that.
Servicing.
Yes, service contracts.
Now, does that include the, I know when you go to the school now, you have to do your driver's license and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that would be that type of a contract.
Do you know how much that system alone costs?
Off the top of my head, I do not, sorry.
I remember we discussed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you done
Go ahead.
micromanaging, John?
I really have one more question, but I'm gonna let you
well,
go
if
first.
you're-
Go ahead.
Well, one of the things we heard at the executive's budget hearing was some concern in Fruitland about overcrowding, I guess for lack of a better word, and students being, not knowing if they had a classroom and being moved around. And again, not to micromanage, but I know that redistricting hasn't happened in a long time, and I know that's a large issue, and I hesitate to even stick my foot in there. Is the ultimate answer to that sort of situation, though, redistricting to align better the number of students at each school so that in areas like Fruitland, which I assume has grown more than maybe some other areas, you have these crowding issues that with redistricting that will ultimately be taken care of?
I choose to call that enrollment balancing enrollment, because I think that there are a number of ways that you can accomplish that aren't just redistricting. Not to say that we don't need to do some redistricting, but I think there's some other changes that we can make programmatically that will help balance enrollment. And that will be one of my big priorities in the coming year.
And I know you've heard it, because, you go to these executive budget hearings, and you hear that, maybe not every year, but, it flares up every now and again, and people, you saw them, they were very angry, so, just, I know it's kind of a recurring thing, so I was wondering if that was connected with, what would you call it, enrollment?
Balancing enrollment.
Balancing enrollment, there you go, okay.
Sounds better than redistricting.
A lot better.
And it is different.
And I guess while Joan is looking there, on these one-time things, I guess, we should kind of address the elephant in the room, because that maintenance of effort, we don't have much of a choice, you're getting that. I mean, that's, the state law is the state law. On these one-time things, I guess and one of the school board members had emailed me about that, and I replied to him, I said, these are worthy goals. The trouble on our side of the table is we have to cut that money from somewhere else to provide it to you. So that's, cutting money, from parts of the budget, and redirecting it is definitely, a balancing act and things like that.
Well, actually, what we were hoping you would do would redirect some of the $9 million that the county executive has put forth as spending some of the unassigned fund balance.
Well, and as I pointed out to others who mentioned that, I'm like, well, for those people who've been promised that in the budget, that's a cut to them. They're already looking at that money as, oh, we've got that money in the budget, and if we redirect that money, as you say, they're not going to look at that. Oh, well, it's just redirection. They say, oh, the county council cut our X, Y, or Z. So, just so we address that, so we do talk about that. Because I know what you presented, is obviously worthy, and we heard the public comments. It's, for our end of the table, that it's just, it's those sort of choices we have to make. And
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
just
about
so
priorities.
everyone knows.
Right.
So.
It's about priorities.
Yeah.
Technically, Mark, we can raise the taxes to add to the water bill.
Well, I mean,
We're swimming in cash right now.
I'm just saying.
well, I mean, to that point, we can't raise the income tax. We could raise, I guess, the property tax slightly. I'm not sure how much to comply, but, yeah. So, I mean, you're right. The income tax is already the highest it's gonna be.
Right.
So,
Right.
but yeah, I guess
Yeah.
Councilman Holloway is correct. We could do the raise taxes, or
Make sure you use the first name when you're saying.
Councilman Matt Holloway.
Lay all the options on the table.
And the very healthy unassigned fund balance.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
very, very, very healthy unassigned fund balance.
We picked that up in your executive summary. I made a note, very subtle on here, in your whole presentation. But Mark's right, I mean,
Well,
that
I'm
is the
thankful
key of
that
what
you're
I
reading.
think
Thank
you're
you.
hearing.
Mr. Fitzgerald, can I speak to this issue for my last meeting here?
Oh, my gosh, Ron.
Go
Why don't
ahead.
you come up, Ron, because you need a microphone.
I do feel very passionate, don't you?
No, please.
I do feel very passionate about the issue, and this is my last opportunity to speak with the council about education budget. Although I'm told my grandson did speak to you at the budget hearing, unbeknownst to me, about this issue.
Oh, sure.
That was your grandson.
I did not prompt him at all, didn't know he was going to be there. But I just want to say to you that the issue of one-time funding, which doesn't affect MOE, is critical to instruction. In all the years I've been on the board, you know that for me, instruction has been the #1 priority. And some months ago, when you were talking about impact fees, Larry said there will always be money for education. And I thought, well, I like the sound of that, but then if that means that we will always fund maintenance of effort, then that's required by law for you to do that. It doesn't.
That's correct.
Right? It's going beyond that. And I understand when you do, you raise the level and you have concerns about that. So our only hope to get some help for instruction is one-time funding. And the things in this request are things that directly affect instruction. We need computer carts desperately. Students have pleaded for that. Teachers have been before us and pleaded for that. People in the public have come to the board and also spoke to that as a real critical need. And I appreciate Mark's concern about, well, if we use this money that's been set aside, someone else thinks we're taking it. But somewhere along the way, I think the council and the county executive, and I'm so glad Wayne's here, has to make a decision as to what your priorities are. You know, I'd like to think that the education system in this county is the top priority for all of you. And when it comes down to where do we take money and apply it, I hope that you'll look at the needs of education and instruction in our county and make that a priority. We've asked for one-time funding for some years and haven't been able to get it. And I'm telling you, this year, the need for instructional support in this request is great. And I, as leaving the board, would be thrilled to think the last year on the board that this council and the county executive together would say education is a priority in Wicomico County, and we're going to try to do what we can to give some additional funds, knowing you don't want to raise the maintenance of effort level. I understand that. But we also know that if we just stick to maintenance of effort, it doesn't take in inflationary costs, does it? So in the truth of the matter, we aren't staying where we are. We do continue to fall behind because the cost of things keep going up. So with all of that said, I want to tell each one of you, I do respect the job you have to do. And although sometimes my passion may be a little strong about this topic, I do understand you have hard decisions to make. My plea to you is make education a priority and give us some one-time funding this year to help this area of instruction, which we desperately need. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Willie.
Thank you, Mr. Willie.
And if I could have my turn.
Sure.
Morning.
Morning, Joe.
I come at this in a different way. I come from a technology background, and when I worked for IBM, we would sell computers to businesses and things like that. And there was always cost justification. Well, you know, if you spend money on technology, then you save money here and you save money there.
But, that doesn't, and going into this job as a board member, I thought that might apply in some cases, and it does, in the administrative areas and areas like that, but it does not apply in making technology available to students. And the way things are moving in technology and within education, there's been a lot of things written about it. I mean, IBM is getting into it, Google is already into it in a big way. I'm pretty sure Amazon's probably gonna be moving into it. But it's an area where we need to move forward. And I know Dr. Hanlon has heard me probably more times than she wants to about we have to prepare to increase the use of technology for our students. I mean, that's where society is going. I don't care what career you're in, you're going to be using technology one way or another. If you're going to be running a small business, or you're an electrician or a plumber, I mean, you're going to be using technology. And I see you guys have technology there, and that's a pretty nice piece of technology that you're using. And nobody's coming in with a cart and say, okay, you guys can use this now, and we're going to take it away from you so that other people can use it in different ways. But that's what's happening within our school system right now. We are sharing the technology. We share items like that amongst students. Every student doesn't get their own, and they should. And that's where we're moving. And it costs money. There's no way of saving money. And I looked at the finances, and there's we don't have the financial might within the school system itself to do it. We can't say, well, let's cut money here so we can provide computer systems for each and every student. Just like you have that, and you can take that home, I understand. You use it at home. Why isn't it that high school students shouldn't be able to do the same thing? In this day and age, they should. They should be given a digital device like that when they enter high school. They use it throughout the day. They probably would use it maybe more than you folks would use it, and then take it home and use it for their homework and everything else that they need to do in order to complete assignments. So I think we just need a whole different way of thinking. If we want our students, especially in high school, and I would say even in earlier grades, if we want them to have a digital device, because this is what it's coming to. This is where our economy is moving. It has been moving in this direction for years and years and years. Then we've got to set aside the money to provide that.
We've kind of agreed 100%, and I guarantee everybody here thinks the same thing, too. We've touched on it before, but just briefly, and never wrapped up. We did it with the prior administration as well. Public-private partnerships. I would think, and I don't know, but I would really think that this is exactly where you need to get involved with public-private partnerships. I mean, to put a Dell laptop on every kid's desk in Wicomico County, or, for Windows programming to go in there. I don't know where it becomes public-private partnerships or indoctrination or whatever they might classify it, where you have businesses sort of like getting into the mix with education and government. But what would you think? Because I think, to me, it sounds like the perfect formula.
We are looking at that, actually. You may or may not know that the Education Foundation is forming. It was an initiative by Greater Salisbury and the Chamber of Commerce to bring together an education foundation to help support education. And so in our organizing meetings, we have been talking specifically that would be one initiative that businesses in the community could get behind.
Right.
So that's one thing. But I just also want to say to you that there's so much more to putting education in the hands of students than just a device.
Oh, I understand, but I mean, I was addressing Joe's situation, and it's valid.
Right. The cost on top of the device itself is you have more infrastructure that's required, you have more technical support on top of that, plus what you have to do
Professional development, and the change in the way that
curriculum.
we do instruction.
Right.
Thanks.
I have a question. Several years ago, the board approved students using their cell phones there, and a lot of kids have smartphones. So how is that affecting the use of technology in the classroom now? Because I know a lot of kids don't even pick up a computer anymore because they live right on their smartphone.
There are some teachers that are allowing their students in a classroom to use their smartphones for instructional purposes.
And so I think that would be a
Pardon me?
significant number.
With their glasses.
I'd like to see you all put it in the budget as a high priority and not the one-time funding. But if that did happen and you were approved these laptops for each student, how long would those computers last? I know some schools do it and they're not allowed to take them home. They put them in a locker or something, but how long do those laptops last?
Typically, our useful life for our computer replacement program is 4 to 5 years.
4 to 5 years.
That's not with them taking them home.
And that's not.
Correct.
So how does Talbot County do it? 'Cause they started that program several years ago, and I think it's still going on.
Yeah, I'm not sure what their useful life is. I think it's 3 years.
So once they're in high school, they pretty much use it the whole time.
I noticed that 11 out of the 18 of your items listed in one time only reference laptops and the carts. 11 out of 18.
And what we heard from the teachers and the students is, remember, we have these high-stakes tests, and they're all on the computer. And so if the child doesn't have an opportunity throughout the day, it's an instructional area, on an ongoing basis, to be able to use the technology, and then they have to go and sit in front of a high-stakes test and take the test using that technology, they're already behind the 8 ball.
And we were fortunate to see that in Fruitland a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, the one-time funding requests were initially in our budget requests that would have impacted maintenance of effort. Quite honestly, we hoped that maybe we'd have a better chance by asking you to fund those items as one-time, right?
Yeah, I was surprised to see that CTE budget didn't increase. It went down a small amount, but I was surprised that CTE didn't increase. I guess maybe that's something that we need to address on more than just a one-year basis.
Right. There were some requests in the
Right.
CTE, some programmatic changes, adding, for instance, our Project Lead the Way programs in engineering that are very popular. Adding another program, I'm trying to remember what it was now, and we would have loved to have done those. They were major funding items, and they got cut from the budget. So, yeah, CTE is also a priority for me, for all of us in the school system.
I wasn't sure whether that was an administrative function or whether that was similar to what Joe Holloway had touched on earlier, and that is that there seems to be, I guess maybe a lack of student interest in those programs. I'm not sure what directed that.
There are certain programs, specific programs where there may have been a lack of interest. That is not across the board.
Okay.
I think they had to combine plumbing and HVAC last year because of that.
And we discussed that several times.
And the only other question I had was in the county appropriations and how it's categorized. How do you delineate what percentage of county funding goes to which category? Because, there's under administration, proposed is 1,167,425. I just wondered how you decided what percentages of the total budget that comes from the county is distributed there to the individual
Basically,
categories.
Because, as you know, the state and the county funding is discretionary. In other words, the county has chosen not to earmark how county funds are spent by category. We allocate it based upon the percentage that the category has to the total budget.
Okay, so it was a flat percentage.
Prorated, yep.
Okay.
That's correct.
Any other questions from anyone? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Appreciate
very,
it.
very
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate your time.
Come help with my ball field.
Okay.
Yeah, good job.
See you, Bruce. Thank you. It's a great spring.
Good to see you, Mr. Candy.
Hey, Gene. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, sir. Married life good?
Gene.
Your neighbors.
I agree. Okay. I don't know, Joe, believe me. Yes. What do you want to get roads in here? Yeah, I agree. Yeah, okay, cool. Very good.
I mean, if we can. Can we get roads in here earlier?